That's the problem. I don't.
You must have known which way you were driving.
Eve, you'd better sit down, I think.
Why? What is it?
That's the question. When we set out, this was going to be a perfectly pleasant and sensible evening. We were going to celebrate...
New Year's Eve! Well, exactly. And somewhere familiar, I should have thought.
Well, they're ringing the bells, whoever they are. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just what my watch says. It's just gone past midnight, so there's nothing wrong with the time.
Wrong with the time? Well, why would there be? What are you trying to tell me?
Just now, driving over, you didn't feel nervous?
No, I've never felt nervous while you were driving before. Only I wanted to know where we were going. That's why I kept on asking you, where were we making for? And you wouldn't say anything except, well. You kept on saying, well. You wouldn't tell me.
How could I when I didn't know?
Oh, you must have known which way you were driving.
Eve, I've got to tell you. I wasn't driving.
Oh, Adam, stop teasing me.
I had my hands on the steering wheel, I know that. And I didn't feel out of control. Not totally, anyway. But there was a persuasion, a kind of calling almost, running through my hands.
Well, why didn't you say so? I should have told you to pull into a lay-by till you felt all right again.
But I didn't feel wrong, Eve. I felt in good hands, except they weren't my own hands. You don't think I'm crazy?
Well, yes, in a way I do. Or else the car is. I'll try to make some sense of it, given help. Only I'd like to know where we've come to. And why? Why it's so deserted? This is a hotel, after all. Although, it's pretty deserted for New Year's Eve, especially this one. There must be somebody around to ask. Oh, look. There is somebody. Dead asleep by the look of him. Shall we wake him?
Better you don't. He might wonder what he was waking up to. Hello there. I'm sorry to disturb anything.
No, you mustn't mind that. It's been a particularly busy evening.
Really?
For thoughts. They come swarming in and don't really leave each other enough room to reach a conclusion.
Perhaps I can help. My friend and I were wondering where we were.
Ah, yes, of course. It's only natural.
Well, will you tell us, please, so that we can get our bearings?
I expect you mean exactly where?
Well, yes, of course, exactly where.
You mean this building?
All right. This building to start with.
And that depends, as you know, on whereabouts in time you are standing.
Oh, Adam, let's leave. Why can't he be civil?
Look, we've been thrown a bit out of kilter this evening. Perhaps you'd be good enough just to tell
I was
us.
meaning to be helpful. Time covers a great distance, you know. If you're meaning to concentrate on the particular hour which has just landed us onto the third millennium...
Well, yes, of course we do.
Then we can't call this place the Star and Saracen, which at one time we might have done. Or the Catherine Wheel, which was possible once. It could more reasonably be called the Chequers where you think you are now. The checkerboard of nights and days, as the poet said. Though the red line across the green could be equally suitable. John Newell did well for himself there. And the Newell family held it across a century or more. That's why I said New Old makes the pub a suitable resting place in the ocean of time, if that doesn't sound fanciful. Am I confusing your friend?
Perhaps you make things simpler for her by just telling us the name of the village.
Ah, yes. There's no difficulty there. Whichever vantage point you're taking. Not at least unless we go back 15...
For God's sake, man, what is it?
Well, in the Old English, it meant the place of assembly, the holy place. Belonging, it's thought, to somebody possibly...
The name, man, the name of the village.
Which I was just telling you. It's Elstow.
Good grief, is it really? I was brought here as a child, on some day trip, I suppose, though I don't remember. How do my hands know that?
Oh, Adam, be sensible. Things don't happen like that.
But somebody brought me here before. And something brought me here now. Somebody brought me to paint a picture of the church. Or rather, the bell tower, that's it, isn't it? The bell tower stands alone like an individual who stands for what he believes. I mean, as though the bells spoke for themselves.
Well, to speak for myself, I can see what happened. Your subconscious knew the road, and so you just followed it.
But I was a small boy then, and somebody brought me. I don't know how we got here.
Well, there must be some perfectly sensible answer. There are always sensible answers if you just look for them.
But what do we know about quantum mechanics?
Absolutely nothing, and rather glad of it.
Suppose the voice of the bells, I mean the vibrations, through the darkness without daylight to interrupt them, broke through some kind of floodgate which kept time from interflowing, quite like this chap seemed to be describing.
Adam, if you're thinking of becoming a little boy again, painting pictures, where does that leave me? Come on, let's try and be sensible.
After 2,000 years, time must be wearing a bit thin.
Well, don't lean on it for heaven's sake.
I wonder how old those bells are. How much of a history they've been talking to.
Ah, here's somebody who should be able to tell you. Were you in the bell ringers tonight, George?
Yes, I was, along with Paul Cobb. But I'll tell you this, as well as us two.
This gentleman was asking how long the bells have hung there.
I could tell you, given time to remember, the 1600s all bar one. But while we was ringing, we'd been ringing 5 minutes or so, another chap had joined us. I hadn't heard him coming up into the loft, nobody I could name. Though there was something familiar about him. He just stood there, listening, and every now and then his arms would lift, as though he was one with us. Hey, I thought, you know something about it. And I looked across at Paul and turned my head towards the fellow, but old Paul didn't seem to notice him. And when we was done, I turned to speak to him. He was gone. He's not been around here then, a stranger. You've not seen him around.
No, I haven't seen any stranger.
And yet, he wasn't so strange. Like I said, there was something familiar about him. But there was, maybe it was what he was wearing that seemed out of the way. Though I didn't get much of a look at him while we was ringing. A sizable fellow he seemed to be. You've not seen him then?
No, I haven't seen any sizable fellow.
You wouldn't think one of his build would just vanish.
Well, whatever our build, it's a way we have in the end. But no, you wouldn't think so, not if he was actually here.
Had the night cleared up at all when you came in? When we were driving here, it was raining, a small mist almost.
Yeah, trying to make the beacon catch was quite a business for the damp wood, but in the end it leapt up fine, and the heat of it seemed to clear the mist as well, and we got the night sky back with us.
'Cause I'd like to see where you brought me to. And you would too, to see how much you remember.
I was just telling her, I was brought here as a child, on a day trip I suppose, but that's going back a bit. But it's all begun to ring a bell with me. I remember now, it's the eldest of my aunts who brought me. Goodness, yes. And to talk about time covering a great distance, she told me she'd sat on the lap of a great uncle who'd been patted on the head by George IV. So when I held her hand, we were making a bridge.
You could almost walk across.
Well, let's walk through the village now. That's going to be easier.
Yes, in a minute. Things are beginning to come together. I remember now why she'd brought me. She'd been reading the Pilgrim's Progress to me and getting me to read bits of it to her. Nice, big type. I've been in the family for a century at least. I remember the inscription on the inside flyleaf, Christmas 1863. And yet, as immaculate as on the day it was published.